All right, now we're going to start with the new unit. This is Unit 4, where we're going to be covering parallel and perpendicular lines. In this unit, we're also going to see different types of angles as well as writing the equations of lines. Okay, so we're going to start with our very first section, 4.1, which is going to be entitled Parallel Lines, Parallel Planes, and Skew Lines. Okay, so let's take each of these one by one. So let's start with parallel lines. So parallel lines, the definition of that is going to be two lines that are never intersecting. Okay, so these lines, they can go on and on and on forever and ever and ever in two different directions, but will never intersect at any point. Okay, and kind of to illustrate this, I decided to draw a little box right here. It's got a kind of a wonky looking backside there, but the two lines that I did scribble in red, this is an example of parallel lines. Certainly not the only example of parallel lines. I could also say that the two on the front right here could also be considered parallel lines. Okay, so parallel lines are just two lines that will never intersect. Next up is parallel planes. Okay, so parallel planes, similar to parallel lines. Parallel planes will be two planes that will never intersect. Okay, so again, two planes that go on and on and on forever and ever and ever. Okay, so we already know that a plane is just an object that can stretch forever and ever in all directions. Okay, so again, I drew another box, and this time, imagine if you had your hand on the bottom of the box and a hand on the top of the box. The bottom and the top of the box, they're never going to intersect. They're joined together by these sides right here, but this top side and this bottom side, they will never touch each other. Okay, so that's going to be two parallel planes. Okay, and the next step is skew lines. Skew lines is one of those that it's a little bit harder to explain, so that's why it's easier if we kind of draw pictures in order to understand these. Okay, so skew lines. So skew lines definition is kind of long. Skew lines are going to be two lines that are not parallel, they are not in the same plane, and they do not intersect. Okay, so they've got to meet all three of those criteria in order for them to be considered skew lines. Okay, so down here in this box drawing, I did scribble two examples of skew lines. Okay, so let's determine how do we know whether it can be skew or not. Okay, so let's say that I start with this side line right here. Okay, so I'm starting with this back edge. So first, I have to pick a line with it that is first not parallel. So it knocks out this line, and this line, because those three lines are parallel with this back edge. Next up, I have to pick lines that are not on the same plane. So this line right here, it is a part of this plane right here, and it's a part of this plane right here. Remember, each face of a 3D object is considered its own plane. So, in keeping with that, every line that helps to create one of these spaces that this edge is already a part of is going to be considered coplanar with that line and therefore cannot be skewed with that line. Okay, so we knocked out these four, and then these and these. We've knocked out those so far. And then lastly, it has to be lines that cannot intersect. And 9 times out of 10, if we've already determined that lines cannot be parallel and cannot be coplanar, we've already pretty much knocked out the do not intersect as well. So there are other options that we could have. We could have also picked maybe this line with that line. But the one that I just picked was this line and that line. Because you can see, these are not parallel. They will not intersect at any point in time, and they do not belong in the same plane. Okay, so that's going to be an example of skew lines. So now we get into this figure right here. Okay, so they give us this figure right here. This figure is a pentagonal prism, and we have to go through and identify all these different parts. So number one, a plane that is parallel to plane ACD. Well, plane ACD, if we look, is this plane on top. It's this top pentagon. Okay, so whenever we name a plane, we just need to say the word plane and then name 3 points that are in that plane. So that's what they did here. Plane ACD all belongs to this top part. So the plane that's going to be parallel to that has to be one that is going in the same direction, but it's never going to intersect with it. Okay? So as we see, these 5 planes, the rectangles, they're all intersecting with it. So that's only going to leave one for us. So this plane down here. Now, we can name this plane a ton of different things. We just have to pick any 3 letters in this plane. So I just went with plane NJL. Okay, but again, a ton of different ways you could name that bottom plane. Number 2, all planes intersecting plane EDM. Okay, so plane EDM, we have E, D, and M. So the plane right here that we're talking about is this one. So all planes intersecting with plane EDM, or another way to put that is all of the planes that share an edge with EDM. Okay, so that's going to include this top base right here. So this time I called it plane DEA, but again, a lot of different names you call it. So this top one, we look at the bottom edge, this bottom base, plane NJK. Okay, now we look at the side. So this edge of it, plane EAJ. And then this edge of it, plane DCL. So that's all of the planes that are intersecting with EDM. Okay, number 3, a segment that is parallel to EN. Okay, so EN is this edge right here. So a segment that's going to be parallel has to be going up and down in the same direction as that segment, but it's never going to intersect with it. And so we got a couple different options. We could either say AJ, BK, CL, or DM. Because if you imagine this thing is sitting on the table, these 5 sides are all going up and down. So any of those would work. All right, number 4. This is where it gets a little bit hairy when we start talking about the skew lines. So number 4, a segment skew to CL and passes through point E. Okay, so CL, this is the one in question that we're talking about. So first, we need to find one that is skew to CL. So keep in mind, skew lines are lines that are not parallel, they are not coplanar, and they are not intersecting. So first, we're going to go through and we're going to take out all of the ones that won't work. Okay? So we're talking about with CL. This is the line we're talking about right here. So first, take out the parallel lines. So DM, EN, AJ, BK, they're all out of here. They can't work for us. Okay, they're going up and down, they're parallel with CL. Next up, any lines that are coplanar. Okay, so CL is a part of 2 planes. It's a part of this plane right here, and it's a part of this plane right here. So we're going to take out CD and ML, LK, and CB. And then we're also going to take out any other lines that may be intersecting with CL. But again, 9 times out of 10, if we've knocked out the parallel lines and we've knocked out the coplanar lines, then we've knocked out any intersecting lines as well. So any other lines that we have left are considered skew to CL. So then we have to identify one of those that passes through point E. So we've got 2 options. We've got DE and AE. Those are our 2 options that we could choose from. All right, next up, number 5. All segments that are parallel to DM. So DM is right here. So if we wanted to go through and name all of them parallel to it, we can basically just look back at number 3, because number 3 was a segment parallel to EN. Number 5 is all segments parallel to DM. So DM and EM, they are parallel to one another. So we can just name all those lines. So EN, CL, BK, AJ. Number 6, a segment skew to BC. Okay, so BC is right here. So if we're knocking out anything that is skewed to BC. So we'll first take out the parallel lines. Only one that's going to be parallel to it is LK. So LK is out of there. Then we have to take out anything that shares a plane with BC. So we'll take out CL and BK. We'll take out CD, DE, EA, and AB. And then there are no other lines that are intersecting with BC that we haven't already knocked out. So we've got a lot of different options that we could put in there. So I just chose one at random. That would be DN, or DM, excuse me. Number 7, all segments that are skewed to AE. Okay, so with AE, so we have our AE line right here. We want to take out all the lines that are, we want to mark all the lines that are skewed to it. So we started taking out the parallel ones. So NJ, that's parallel. We're going to take that one out. Now we're going to take out the ones that are coplanar. So we'll take out EN. We'll take out AJ. We'll take out AB, BC, DC, and DE. Okay? So it says list all the segments that are skewed to AE, and granted, that is going to be a lot of different segments because anything that I have not scribbled out would classify. So we could have JK, BK, CL, KL, LM, DM, MN. So any of those would work. I just put BK because we would have like 8 of those. Okay? But just keep in mind, any of them that are not scribbled out, they would all be considered skew to AE. Okay, and then lastly, we wanted a segment parallel to AB that goes through point J. Okay, so AB is this line up here. So we got to first look for a segment that is parallel to AB. And the thing is, there's only one segment that is parallel to AB, and that's going to be JK. And that works out great for us because we're looking for a segment parallel to AB and goes through point J. So JK is going to be the one that we need.